Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. Since the market is a bit slow and the price action around the all-time high is still a little bit confusing and perhaps messy for some people, I wanted to take a deeper look at BTC together with USDT, right? Those are the two charts that I mainly analyze as they are inversely correlated, and sometimes USDT gives us more reliable data that BTC can't. For example, when BTC enters price discovery, we don't have any new levels to analyze or to have an idea where it can top. But as USDT is inversely correlated, once BTC skyrockets, USDT dominance also comes down. So we have previous levels to have an idea where BTC can top, right? So that sometimes have been used on a spotting the trend changes in RSI before it gets reflected in price. Obviously, those are the divergences, but I've been spotting like long trends before the reversals. For example, here when BTC broke the previous all-time high, right here, the initial rejection, and the all-time high breaks here, we started printing a trend change here in RSI. So this was the bottom in summer, with the trend slightly, as you can see, rising after this previous leg down, like change in the trend, losing strength while price was still pretty much unable to climb. This was another change in the trend, right? Like a distribution area here. It's in between spring and summer. You can see distribution area while it was losing strength, right? To this eventual capitulation, but the new leg in RSI was already building, right? It still needed time to be reflected in price, and this high daily bullish divergence was this signal for us to say that okay, it was reversing, right? At the same time, key levels here were holding, right? And when the new leg confirmed, this trend confirmed, we entered the final phase of that RSI, let's say, leg, into the final push here in price, right? While the leg is losing strength, and we rinse and repeat. So later on, price reflects the drop and RSI finds a new bottom. Again, we start building a new trend, which is the one we use together with other indicators to spot the reversal that had to be reflected later in price, as we did. So now we have entered this new RSI leg, which coincides with the daily cycle. As you know, we've been tracking them, and this is a 60-day daily cycle, okay, from the pretty much the bottom, the confirmation. We have done pretty much the same here with this cycle flash, more or less. This was the bottom around here and the flash. So the thing is this still a new leg? Are we entering in a drop down? Is this the start of the leg that perhaps prints the various divergence into the local top, as I expect? Or could bears be thinking, okay, pretty much very overheating stock RSI, unable to climb that much, unable to break all-time high decisively, we might roll over, break the MA, or could just be a retest, and up we go, way holding 106.5, which is the key level for now. Excuse me. I said that stock RSI, I got asked yesterday why I didn't care sometimes about it, and it's because it's very sensitive, way more sensitive than excuse me, than RSI. As you can see here, it can oscillate way more, right? Which is something that helped me spot this small drop with the daily cycle low flash. Stock RSI didn't get it, like didn't buy it, right? It should have dropped together with price and RSI, and it didn't. That was what made me think that perhaps it was a fake move to the downside, right? So what I believe is either BTC or USDT, one of them is lying. Since this is the new daily cycle with key levels holding, in this case 100K, it didn't even try to fill this candle down, which would, in my opinion, have invalidated a high time frame trend, the weekly, right? I mean, it could have been a retest. I'm gonna remove all this, a retest here, but that would make the push way lower. This is something, again, as stock side people would say, it could be worrying, but we've seen plenty of times that it could just go back up and drop people. So this is not the main indicator. So that is what we see on the 1 day. If I open the 4-hour chart, we see that this move is very extended to the downside, even a bit lower than the daily cycle low flash here, right? So this still could very well turn around now, push, and keep going as it's the new daily cycle. What about USDT? USDT has helped us. Again, we find the trend changes. In this case, this was the bottom in summer, and this was the local bottom top for USDT in April. Again, confirming what I just we just saw here with BTC. Sorry, this is the daily. I should go back to daily. The bullish divergence that we spotted here, which was reinforced by this daily bearish divergence from USDT, unable to make a high, and again a deviation above this range. So this is the main range since USDT dominance abandoned the top, the distribution, right, into the new bull market for crypto, and this is the main range. I said that whatever direction it decides to take, if it's the upside, it's the end in my opinion, and if we broke below, it's like Valhalla for all our altcoins, right? So if we zoom in, we see this small bear flag, like a small pause in this downtrend, right? And we break below, and we form a rising wedge that I said it could be a rising wedge, and it broke down, and again it retested for 0.5. I mean, it wasn't unexpected for it to bounce again. It's been a strong level. The last time it got here was like 15 days ago. So it's normal that it acted as resistance, especially when BTC is still not ready to push above the all-time high. I think it's a matter of days. It shouldn't take long for this daily cycle to be strong. Again, just could be a bounce. So who is lying here? Because I could, if I apply the same logic to every chart, and I'm not trying to be a perma bull and ignore the changes, this trend change in RSI, which was the bearish divergence, right? You can, I mean, this is the problem with divergences. You can, that's why I like to draw these kind of channels, because you can say this is a bearish divergence, but at the same time it's a bullish divergence. Yes, it is, right? It's a bullish divergence. That's why it pushes again, but it keeps forming the bearish divergence, right? It's like a rising channel, and here it's a down channel. So that's why I think that is the trend change that RSI is anticipating, and then it gets reflected in price, right? The same way here, with very oversold conditions, it kept pushing, but RSI was already saying, okay, this is time for a reversal, and right into high time frame support, which is around 10th December, when I said it could be a local top, confirmed by a double bottom like here in January, while RSI kept rising. So again, RSI was already changing, right? While price was still waiting to reflect that. And then we enter this next move again, and RSI always ahead of price, reflecting the trend change. So the question is this a new trend? we had this daily bullish divergence here, right? So far, this is the move. This is the move up. And I say, at the same time, you could argue that we are building a bearish divergence here. Or is it a new leg and USDT and price has still to reflect it? Daily, you could argue the same way as BTC looked overheated, this looks oversold. You could argue that yes, perhaps we are reverting. What about the 4-hour chart? The 4-hour chart says, I'm gonna remove everything for a second. The 4-hour chart says that this move is pretty much over. I saw the same thing here with the daily cycle low flash, right? And we rolled over and kept going down. The thing is, you could argue, okay, this is not a lower low. It is compared to this, not to this one. You can see the 450 bouncing, which is a strong level. Even the 4-hour bullish divergence, so from oversold levels, of course it's gonna bounce. But if the bounce keeps being weaker, this 450 is gonna be retested and perhaps break again. And if we lose it eventually, then 437 is the major level before getting into 377 as the top. So we can say that it's not very clear, right? But that's why I play the high time frame. Let me do this for a second and go back to all these indicators, right? I'll remove this for a second to make it clearer. I have already too many lines here. So if I go to the weekly, what we can see is, these are not necessary now, is this bear flag. You could argue this rising wedge. You can see by the weekly wicks that it obviously found support here, but it's also grabbing liquidity the same way it did here several times before pushing back up. And you could argue that this, again, apart from the rising wedge on the daily, it's another bear flag. You could argue it is. So for now, all I see is a failed break, confirmation of the range, of entering back in the range while below the EMA. And this is just a stop in the higher time frame downtrend. You could argue again, what if BTC is weakening? I can see that the RSI is above the weekly RSI is above the EMA, so this is a new weekly cycle. And USDT, no matter how much it's trying, you can see it always tries to retest. Every asset tries to do that. It did here, it even tried here, and then eventually capitulated into the bottom, right? So this could be seen just in a couple of weeks as a weak attempt to climb, but then it's another bear flag and it rolls over again the same way it did here. And we enter this final move the same way this candle did into 377. It doesn't have to be a straight line, of course. You can see all these weeks means daily corrections in between, right? It doesn't have to be a complete capitulation here. And what about stock RSI? It's curling up. Yes, it is. But you can see here that when this was a rollover, this temporarily, because this is a big wick, this temporarily also rolled back up. But since the weekly close was this low, it flattened eventually, right? So again, stock RSI can stay overheated and oversold for quite some time. Look at this, how overheated it was from February to March, like a whole month, right? While it kept pushing because RSI is the primary indicator. And here in the weekly, we can really spot these changes, daily changes that allow to find the local bottom. But in a higher time frame, what I see, you could argue that this was an indicator that not only the daily but also the weekly, this was a big move. And if this is a high time frame move from September to April, I don't think it's going to stop here. In fact, if it stops here, it would be a lower high but a higher low. And this could eventually be a reversal. And BTC, in fact, has just slightly go into above all-time high, and it's just a fake. But it doesn't align with the 4-year cycle, the weekly cycle. It's all going well, and it doesn't align with even higher time frame, which is the monthly. USDT has slightly crossed below the MA. Flat RSI, bearish divergence, and look at the monthly. It's even clearer how it got rejected twice. So this breakout was even weaker than this one, right? And look at this. This is why I said perhaps we are not ready for what might come, because all this impulse, unable to make a high, not even in RSI, which is flat, even worse in stock RSI, like this is the whole strength I have. That's what USDT is showing. This is all I could do. So this opens the door. The same way here, it couldn't break below with a bounce, and RSI said, okay, I'm strong enough. I'm not done yet. Stock RSI pretty much said the same thing, like I have one more push in me. Yes, but that push was weak, right? Because it didn't fully reset, so to speak. So this could indeed be the monthly move into a very oversold area, right? And perhaps that's the place where it forms another bullish divergence to signify, to mark the cycle top for BTC. But the thing is, there's so much room here, pretty much like a bear market, oversold levels here. It was the same level, right? You can also see, this regular divergence. Regular divergence means reversal, was the bottom for the USDT, the bear market bottom, monthly. And we can say that here is a hidden divergence, which means continuation of this high time frame move. We have been applying this. This is not something I'm making up, something I'm trying to cherry pick to believe we are going up. Those who have been here with me for a long time know that I've been tracking this for BTC in the weekly, that we have been using this to spot the weekly bottom in 2022, the reversal for the cycle, how I said these RSI levels should hold for the bull run to be alive, because every bottom here, RSI level pretty much held those levels. So it should, and this daily bullish divergence reinforced that together with the daily bearish divergence here. So what I see in the monthly is weakness. This is still a downtrend, right? So I don't see yet any change in the trend for USDT dominance, high time frame, very high time frame, cycle wise, right? So that's why I believe one of them is lying, and it's USDT, right? The lower, as you can see, we have traveled from the 4-hour chart to the monthly, and the higher we've gone, the clearer it gets. That's why low time frame can chop you out, can make you believe it's over and we're back, because the volatility in crypto is insane, right? So if you perhaps see the charts were 100, like not unable to break out and have yet, and now you see like a, what is this? What kind of drop is this? What is this? Like, I don't know, from here to what we are now. Sorry, this is not the indicator. So this, what is this? 5% drop? Is a 5% drop something to worry about, really? Perhaps it is when you are obsessed and you stay here like every single day. And this 4% move for BTC is like 8% move for your altcoin, and you again think it's over. But you never think it's suspicious when you see a 20% candle for your altcoins in 15 minutes or in an hour, right? That's great, because that's what we want. But if we see an 8% drop, we are suspicious that it's weak, it's over. So if that's how you feel now, if that's how doubtful or fearful you feel every move to the upside or to the downside, that means we are not at the top. When you see 15, 20, 30, 40% drops followed by the fucking dip on Twitter, that means people are really fed, really with fat bags, So they keep buying and buying and buying and round tripping. But if every slight move is analyzed and detailed because we are not sure what's going on, that means the top is not in at all. What I see, higher structurally speaking, higher level speaking, is just a matter of time. I remember posting here the clear skies, right? When I open a chart, I see perfect height and frame structure respected. So we break this and clear skies ahead. And that's what we had. So what I see is a higher time frame. This still is a downtrend. Yes, it might look like it could reverse because of this bounce. You could see the stock RSI, yes, but it's still way below the MA. Even if it goes back up to retest it, it goes back again to 5%. It could make crypto go back to 98, something like that. It could still be a lower high. So if we analyze this, you tell me to analyze this. Let's say this is an altcoin chart, and you tell me, what do you see here? Well, what I see here, would you buy this? Well, what I see is a clear distribution and a downtrend. And for this to be bullish, this would have to be a lower high, a higher low, and then make this higher high. And then we can start thinking about this is bullish. So for now, this is a downtrend with no divergences. In fact, what I can say is every time it tried to push, it made a divergence. So yeah, the high time frames is still looking weak. I don't see any reversal. Yes, we have very oversold levels here, right? So there's a bounce coming. Sure, this low could even be, you could argue that, yeah, it's still trying to climb, but again, unable to really push, right? So applying the trend changes that I said many times, if the RSI is changing here, the trend is an uptrend, but the price still hasn't reflected it, you could say, okay, but that suggests the trend is going to change. Yeah, but it has to first reflect on price. So you have the final capitulation, and then it's how you reflect it. So that could be what we are waiting for right now. Enter in the new weekly cycle correction, and then we enter in the final drop cycle wise for the monthly. So how could that look in the monthly? That could be something like this. We have now this drop, we retest the MA, and we get into the final move here. So what we do is something like this, bang, bang. And that's the cycle bottom. So I hope this video has been useful. It's been longer than I expected, but it's been analyzed in detail. So I hope you like it, and I'll see you probably after the new all-time high. Bye.